Hello, I've had a request video from someone whose handle is called Petit Scarabee. Thank you so much for your request video all about the Regency Neck Ruff. Now the Regency period officially runs from about 1811 to 1820. When the Prince of Wales, the Prince Regent, was ruling on behalf of his father who was mentally ill, who was King George III. And here he is, King George III, Mad King George. But historians will always mention a broader cultural period for the Regency period from about 1795 up to 1830. So, my research on this didn't really give me answers as to why this fashion actually evolved. Not like the ruffs from the 1600s that started off with a bit of a ruffled collar on the blouse, but then ended up to do with your wealth and status. But I can give you an overview on the likelihood of the fashion, as they were more of a fashion accessory and a decorative thing in the Regency period. The simple little ruffs that were called betsies, phrases, neck frills or double frills, and they were either of lace, muslin or cambric material and could be very plain for day wear or beautifully decorative with jewellery for evening wear. Men at this time were wearing either cravats, something called stock collars, the beautifully decorative jabot. Early modesty fillers, or for warmth, had been what was called the fichu, or the wraparound pelerine fichu. Earlier first neck frills had been on this dress, made famous by Marie Antoinette, called the chemise à la reine. And also all throughout the Georgian period, there had been these beautiful neck chokers, which were fashionable for many years. And these things develop, don't they, throughout time, and they get bigger and fancier. And here's a choker that's starting to look a bit like a frill. And a very small frill with a neat little bow on the front. Frills from the early 1800s were called the phrase or the betsy, and they were quite plain and they were all-rounders, and they could be used for day wear, for taking a stroll, or beautiful, elaborate ones for the ball. The cherouse or the cherouk was an accessory that was popular between about 1811 and 20. This was a style that was open at the front and worn around the back to frame the face. Often made of lace, these were actually a revival of the ruffs that were in the 1600s. They would be starched and gaufred. Gaufred means that it is put into a figure of 8 or a particular shape. Like this one, it actually looks a bit like the ruffs of the 17th century. However, most frilled necklines were part of what was called a chemisette, which was a false chest piece made of linen or cotton that was made to look like an underblouse. It was a filler, if you like, and the frill was attached to that. And here we have a lovely couple taking a stroll in the rain, and she's wearing her cherouk very proudly just to take a stroll in the rain. Now also in the early 1800s, these long fur stoles were very popular, and they were called tippets. On Saturday the 9th of November 1799, the Morning Herald said, and I quote, "The cold weather has begun to make an extraordinary change in the dress of the ladies of haute ton." And you can see a previous video of mine that tells you all about what the ton was, or who the ton was. A tippet or two and neck frills in abundance appeared in Bond Street, and some females, in defiance of fashion, had actually made to change their chemise with the addition of a petticoat. And so you see all these things, the frills, the chemisettes, the chemises, the petticoats, the tippets, were not only for decoration but also used for warmth and modesty as well. How wonderful is all that? And thank you, Petit Scarabee, for your fab request on the Regency Ruffs. Hope you've enjoyed another fashion story. If you have, enjoy me again next time. Till then, bye!